Take a quick look at a unsolved homicide from January 27th, 1973 that took place in Chesaning, Michigan. And it went unsolved for years until they were able to advance the investigation and find some evidence and some as a DNA sample and eventually catch the perpetrator. It's quite a story, and it's the Don Magyar case. Let me get it on the screen here. I won't get everything in, but I'll try to get the core of it. One moment, please.
In a town of 3,000 people, life is simple and relatively safe, or so we would like to think. On a Saturday afternoon, 20-year-old Dawn Magyar says goodbye to her husband and baby boy. She sets out for the grocery store and never returns. The following morning, Dawn's car is found in this parking lot. The driver's side door is open. Groceries are strewn about inside. The keys are under the vehicle, and Dawn Magyar is gone. Winter turns to early spring. Fields shake off their slumber, and in the forests, the sap is rising. It's time to tap the maple sugar trees. In 1973, Wayne Summers is just 11 years old. He heads out into his father's woodlot, going tree by tree, checking each pail for the sap that will soon be maple syrup.
And just as I got to probably right about here, actually, I didn't actually make it to that pail, I did notice a very bright color on the ground over there, and it turned out to be a bright blue, almost a fluorescent blue. So I had to stop for a moment and look, and I noticed it was a person, what appeared to me being a person lying on the ground, and a woman, I could tell by the hair.
Wayne and his older brother move in for a closer look and recognize the face from local newspaper reports. The woman under the tree is Dawn Magyar. The Shiawassee River flows through the town of Owasso, just 1 mile south of the spot where Dawn Magyar was abducted. On a summer day, 4 boys are swimming in the river when one of them steps on something that doesn't feel right.
He stepped on this revolver. Of course, reached down and saw that it was a revolver, and then he took it to the Owasso Police Department.
It's a .22, a cheap throwaway at that. Detective Bart Barnes wonders, could this be the gun that killed Dawn Magyar? He turns to ballistics expert Marv Stone.
It was rusty and dirty, and when it was cleaned up, it could not be identified with the fired bullets from the body.
The rusty barrel makes a ballistics fingerprint impossible, but the circumstances are intriguing. The revolver found in the river is the same caliber that killed Magyar, a .22. The groove inside the barrel twists 8 times to the right, consistent with the marks on the slugs pulled from Magyar's body. Finally, inside the revolver are 3 spent shells, 2 Remington, 1 Winchester, just like the slugs from Magyar's body. Has pulled up stakes, leaving no forwarding address, no date of birth or social security number, leaving nothing but Barnes scratching his head, wondering if the missing Mr. Shaw killed Dawn Magyar. So the trail stops here, in this dusty town with more cactus than people, 2,000 miles from Owasso, Michigan, and the maple syrup farm where Dawn Magyar was killed.
So you were kind of just at a standstill. There were no Robert Shaws living in the immediate Owasso area at the time. So we're kind of at a dead end.
When we come back, police attempt to track down Robert Shaw more than 20 years after he left Yuma. And finally, an old neighbor who was doing time in Florida for an unrelated sexual assault. All fit the profile of suspect. All are tested. None match the unknown DNA signature.
And when you start working through your suspect list and they're all eliminated, you start to wonder if the killer is in the file or is not in the file.
By 1998, the Magyar case has found its way to the desk of Detective Mark Pendergraft. Laying aside the DNA evidence developed by Tillman, he focuses on the .22 caliber gun found in the Shiawassee River and later determined to be the murder weapon.
During our investigation, we decided that if we could just figure out how the gun got to Michigan, who brought it here, maybe that would lead us to the killer.
Pendergraft believes that man could be the mysterious Robert Shaw, a man who in 1965 bought the gun.
Home from work one day and there was a card in the mailbox with a little note on the back that said, we discovered some property that might belong to you and we'd like to talk to you about it.
Shaw puts in a call to the name on the card, Michigan State Police Detective Steve Harshberger.
Come to find out it was a gun that I had bought, well, that they thought belonged to me, and I said, yeah, I guess it does.
Mr. Shaw told me that he was in Yuma, Arizona between 1964 and 1966 while stationed there in the U.S. Army, and that while there he did purchase a similar firearm from a pawn shop in Yuma.
Shaw then moved to Michigan and found DNA samples are taken from the suspect and compared against semen found at the crime scene. Lab results confirm what Robert Shaw has said from the beginning. He is not a DNA match, nor is he Dawn Magyar's killer. And while that is good news for Robert Shaw, it does not take him off the hot seat.
I was the dead end. I mean, the gun was mine. Now, where it went from me, then I had no answer. And they said, well, you know, we're not going away, you know, until we come up with something. And, you know, then, you know, I'm racking my brains. Now, who in the heck could have got that gun?
Up next, a case of wine gets the juices flowing, giving new meaning to the phrase in vino veritas.
Remember as having some type of connection with him back in the early 1970s, we were now looking at.
From time to time, Shaw will think of names, old co-workers or roommates who may have gotten their hands on the .22. He passes the names on to cold case detectives, but the leads go nowhere. On April 25th, Shaw is at the warehouse where he works, moving crates of wine. As he's stacking boxes of Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, another name pops to mind.
Well, I was on my way to pick up a load of wine. I was thinking something about wine. And the name come into my head, and I thought, Gerald Weingart.
Gerald Weingart. For Shaw, a name synonymous with pain. In 1968, Robert Shaw and his wife were getting a divorce. Just before she moved out, Shaw's ex dropped a bomb. She was already seeing a new guy, a man named Weingart, a man with a troubled past.
I recollected, she said,
Corrections after 1969.
The cops can draw a line connecting Shaw to Weingart by means of the woman they both shared. This connection makes it possible that Shaw's revolver got into Weingart's hands. To strengthen their case and to make Weingart a killer, they'll need a sample of his DNA. In October of 2000, Gerald Weingart punches in here, where he works on computers in the payroll department. One afternoon,
one thing I'd done is I had walked up to his truck, and without entering his truck, I looked in through the window, and I could see that a pack of cigarettes on the dash, and I could see what the brand was. It was Merit brand. And I noticed there were quite a few cigarette butts in the ashtray, so that tells me that he smokes and tells me what brand.
a day later, the cigarettes are processed, and a DNA profile is successfully extracted. That profile is compared to the DNA found at the crime scene. The result, a perfect match.
The chance of finding another individual at random that's unrelated.
For trial, forensic scientist Ann Chamberlain is asked if she can counter Weingart's claim. Chamberlain puts the Magyar rape evidence under the scope.
When I did finally put them under the microscope, I just got kind of excited because there was the 4+ count and there were the tails, and that pretty much sealed his fate right there.
A 4+ means the sperm cells are in excellent condition, indicating in the Dawn Magyar homicide investigation, perseverance won the day. But luck, however, played a supporting role. Gerald Wingert could easily be free if a cold winter hadn't preserved his DNA inside his victim, if a young boy hadn't found a gun in a river, and if Robert Shaw hadn't found inspiration in a case of wine. Which leads to one remaining mystery. How exactly did Wingert get Shaw's gun? He'll never know for sure, but Shaw believes Wingert somehow took the gun when the ex-wife moved out.
It could have been in the trunk of the car because she got the car and everything, or it could have been in a dresser drawer because when you'd move, you'd leave everything in the drawer, or he might have been to the apartment sometime when I was gone, you know, I don't know.
A misplaced gun led to a life lost and a prison sentence for a cold case killer.
And that's quite a story there. And if you go to Google search engine, just type up Don Magyar, there's a lot of information about it, and on YouTube as well. And this kid's been profiled on TV a couple times. But it's quite a story, and that'll do it.